I'm Dr. Carol Talbot, the creator and founder of the Possibility Hub, taking you beyond the boundaries of who you believe yourself to be and opening up to new possibilities. My guest in this episode is extraordinarily gifted and likely to challenge what you've been taught and told about the world. Dr. Kimberly McGeorge is a frequency master, conscious creation expert, and naturopathic energy healer, counting many of the world's most gifted healers among her clientele. Combining science with possibility, her expertise lies in pinpointing and eliminating obstacles, restoring equilibrium, and fostering balance using her own psychic abilities and technology. My own experiences with Dr. Kimberly have been extraordinary, and my awareness has certainly been expanded, as I'm sure yours will, in this conversation. So let's find out more. Hello, Dr. Kimberly, and welcome to the Possibility Hub. I'm super excited about this conversation because I know it's going to go at 100 miles an hour, and we're going to go in many, many different directions. So anybody who's watching or listening, get ready to have your mind blown and your beliefs shattered in many, many different ways. That's all our sort of segue for this conversation. Now, you have a book which is about NPCs, non-playing characters. It also talks about fire creation beings, which will also probably lead us into AI and the metaverse and your new discoveries about the soul. But let's start with that book because although it's a short book, it's very powerful. And people may not know what we mean by NPCs or fire creation beings. So do you want to start by just explaining that, and then we'll go deeper in that way?
Sure. And I think it's important to put at the base that my current frame of reference for the reality that we live in is definitely what would fall under simulation theory, but I take it to a subcategory which would be game theory. So I not only believe we are living in a simulation, I believe the simulation is exactly, with very little deviation, like a video game. And then a lot of people talk about this life as a movie. And if you play the modern video games, which I don't, but my children and my children's husbands do, that's where the movie part comes in, because the modern video games, they do have these movie plots, and then they have a new movie plot as you work through the game, and so it is a scripted reality. So basically, I believe that this is a hell realm, very violent war game. A lot of people in the community act like it's, I call it the little pony, fluffy bunny unicorn game, but it's not. It's a very psyop upon technology, upon violent. We have a violent history. We're not going to go down that road, but we could go down. And I hate the Tartaria thing because it's way more than Tartaria. Tartaria is the cover for what really happened and all the other civilizations, but we don't have time to go into that. I'll be going into that in the next year or so. But so there's just a lot.
You're talking about the ground.
Yes, there's a lot to it. Actually, it's interesting you bring that up because I just upgraded, which is a whole nother story. And I have a new soul group, and the new soul group is like working with me, and a lot of information is coming in, and I'm remembering and getting a lot of what you would call downloads, I guess. And so I'll be teaching a lot of that in the coming years.
Wow. Okay. So
so back to, so that's the base with a few buddy trails.
Yeah. And I like that because, again, I know for me, when things get overwhelming, I step back and think it's a game. How do I want to play within this game realm? So it's actually a very nice way of viewing things and sort of taking things a little bit lightly when you see it as a game, and that how are you playing within that game? If you've got the video buttons, what would you be doing? How would you be responding and reacting? So let's segue back to NPCs, fire creation beings, and what they are.
Okay, so understanding that in a game, and again, a lot of you will know exactly what I'm talking about because a lot of you play these or have played them, or your kids play them. In the game, there's characters, and sometimes there's these games where you play with your friends. So you're on your headsets, and your friends in Alaska, and your friends in India, and your friends in Japan, and you're like a team, and you're going through a house, point and shoot, whatever, or unraveling mysteries or adventuring together. And those people are real. You're like, hey, Bob, hey, Sue, and you're talking to them and they're real. You know them, you've met them, whether virtually or in real life. But then in these games, there's the monsters that come in. There's the wizards that come in. There's the government or the spy or the enemy or the lover, whatever role, do you know those people? Do you know the spy in the game? No, you don't. Why? Because it's a non-player character. It's to enhance your virtual reality experience. That spy you can shoot. You don't have to go to court. You don't have to go to prison. You don't have to worry about being caught. And so that spy is a non-player character. That spy is what we call one and done, which I also call clones when those spirits one and done in the real reality. So it gets really tricky because we have a messy languaging problem in all countries, no matter what language you speak. We say things like Bigfoot. So everything furry in the woods becomes Bigfoot. We smash everything together. So in the NPC category, it's the same thing. We say NPC and people think they know what it means, but there's actually subcategories of NPCs. So there's the holographic NPC, and I have pictures of this. I have a picture of a car with two people driving it on the road beside me. The car is see-through, the people see-through. What is that? Now, to your sight, if you saw that car, I'm not saying Carol, but anyone in the audience or my parents, you would see that as solid. But because of the sight or the frequency I was running that day, I was able to see through the hologram. And people say, well, what if you had gotten out and the car was parked and you would have touched it? My hand would have gone through the car. So that's one type of hologram. There's also type of holograms like they have, and I'll use this as an example. This is all over the world, not just where I'm going to say, but in Central Park in New York City, which is a very famous park to everybody in America, not just New York, and even around the world, there are holographic trees in Central Park. As a matter of fact, about a third of the park is holographic. That's also why people disappear. I know I'm going on all bunny trails in national parks and state parks in America and around the world because they fall into holographic base covering. So they have holographics over the base entrances and over even portals to other worlds and things. And so if you put your hands through the wrong tree, but it's the same with people. So yes, in these NPC people you can put through. There's also NPC people that they keep empty and they run as wetware robotoids because this is just an avatar. This is just wetware. And they will keep them empty. They won't even allow them to be jumped or a spirit to come in or out. They're government-owned wetware and they're in your life. A lot of these people are your mailmen. Sorry, guys, I used to deliver mail, so there are some real people. Your mailman, your bank clerks, your grocery store people. Not to offend anybody that's real, because there are real people there too, but a lot of these game-filling jobs, those people don't even exist. You think they exist, but they don't exist. They're part of the game. So if you went to find out where they live, they don't even have a house. As a matter of fact, you want me to blow your mind further? You think your whole neighborhood's full. It's not. Your neighborhood is not full. A lot of they mow, and believe me, yes, the government mows lawn. Yes, the government, the game controllers, I should call it government is the same thing. The game controllers do mow the lawns and do keep the snow blown and do turn the lights on and do have cars parked in the driveway. At the stage of the game we're in, half your neighborhood isn't full. You can go to any community, rich, poor, ghetto, anything in between. The apartments aren't full. The houses aren't full. If you are observant and you can read energy, go to a neighborhood you're not familiar with, or even a section of your city, or if you live in the country, feel it. Do you know what an empty house feels like? And I'm not talking about they're at work. Go at 10 o'clock in America PM when people are sleeping on the East Coast. I'm not talking about, it's cognitive dissonance. You will tell yourself they're at work, because you're going to justify it to fit with the programmed reality that you think you know what reality is. So this whole reality is nothing like you guys think it is. Now, why is that important? Why do we care? And I'll get into the different categories a little more in a minute. Why does it matter? It matters, and I'm going to be sharing a story and ultimate about this. It matters because if you think the person you met in the grocery store really wants to date you and have a relationship with you, and you walk down that path and you let him move in, or you move in with him and you have children together, or you get married, how much does that matter? How much will that take your life in a different direction, positive or negative, right? But mostly negative. Because if you are allowing the controllers of the game to run your game, it's not going to be in your highest and best timeline or interest. And more than likely, it's going to lead to you coming back and back and back and back here because they want to keep you here to siphon your energy. So that's why this conversation is so much more. It's not just like quirky, fun sci-fi entertainment. This is like life-altering information if you're really here at a soul level, what I'm saying to you. So your neighborhoods aren't what you think. All these people aren't what you think. And you're like, well, how would I know? You can learn. I mean, I'm pretty sure Carol can discern quite a lot of this. And people with abilities as you.
Discernment. And if you know what you're looking for.
There you go.
More aware of your energy. I mean, all our organisms read energy, but as humans, we've become really, really lazy. But that, again, is part of the programming and the conditioning so that we are not able to discern, what's there, what's not there. And we're just blindly in the game, not realizing it's a game.
That's it. And I know I'm dating myself, but most people, if you guys don't know what this is, look up. I'm sure there's a video on YouTube. There's a video on YouTube for everything. Thank goodness. When you want to illustrate something, you can just say, go to YouTube, type it in, or go to Google, type it in. The benefits of AI. But, I used to play pinball when I was a kid in the, 80s. And yeah, I'm dating myself. But to me, 99% even of conscious people, even of awake people, or we think we're so awake and aware, they live their life like they're in the pinball game, not in the game that we're in, but a pinball game. Meaning, the ball bounces here and they spin over here, and then this happens and they spin over here, and they just let the controllers and the handlers and life, what they think is life, buffet them, and they're always responding. So when we go back to the conversation of what is manifestation, what is creation, and how do we do that, if you are playing life like a pinball game, not like a video game, then you're going to have a problem. And from my observation, again, even, and you know this too, because you know some of these people, even in consciousness, no one really teaches us the navigation of life. So what I'm sharing with you is, if you listen and you start to apply, it's going to help you navigate the reality that you're in instead of playing an entirely different game. They want you to think you're in a maze. You're crashing into walls all the time. Oh no, I turned a corner and I got blocked. I got fired. What next? But you don't have to live your life like that. Eventually, if you understand the game and you're willing to accept the reality, it's always better. My dad taught me this a long time ago. He said, it is what it is. One thing we have to kind of establish even below this conversation to me, are you willing to accept what I call bottom line based truth? A lot of people aren't. They want the delusion and they want the illusion, and that's fine. I actually have no judgment on that. You can play the game however you want. I don't think we find that it serves most people when we look at their lives. I have this thing I've said to my students for 15 years. I said, give me 10 minutes in your house and I'll tell you how well you can manifest. I'll tell you your frequency level. I'll tell you how much of your psychic abilities are activated. I'll tell you how happy you are. I mean, I can tell because, everything about us, reflects that, and we can read that frequency. And I mean, look at the news, talk to your neighbors, go to a restaurant, observe. People are not joyful and expanded. Most people are not joyful and expanded and can't wait. And, if I could tell you how many times during the day I'm like, I live the most amazing life. Who says that? Like 100 times a day? Very few people. But here's the delicious thing that I want you to get out, no matter what you remember. You can have that. If you can hear my voice or even see the type, if you couldn't hear, you can have it. It's not me. I'm not special. That's another one of my sayings. Everyone's special. No one's special. I'm not special. If you are fire creation, which I'll explain in a second, you can have your amazing life. And so then, like I said, so then there's the NPCs that are wetware that are controlled by the controllers of the game. Then there's the empty bodies that are where the original fire creation spirit. So fire creation is what a religious person in a Western religion would consider a soul, an eternal living fragment. Some people would call it God. I call it the all or the void. It can it be, interestingly enough, it can be captured, but it can't be contained or all of it captured, because your soul is like the ocean. So I can go scoop a cup out of the ocean and put it in a container and put it in my refrigerator for the next 5 years, right? It's captured, but guess what? The ocean's still there. So even if your soul is captured in another realm, another dimension, another parallel reality, another game, there's still plenty of you to go around. So here again, I'm going to say this is the void point we have to be with everything. It's a contradiction. Does it matter? Like if this game ends, yes, it matters, but it doesn't matter at all because you are so large and so expansive. You're living so many concurrent realities. So when we start talking about this, people start getting like kind of traumatized and reactive and weird. And you know that, people have weird reactions to some of this information and me, but we take it way too lightly and we take it way too heavy. It's that balance. So I want you guys to hold this just kind of in a middle point. Don't go either extreme, like, but the Bible says it doesn't matter. Just hold this information really kind of, just in a neutral point and let it sit in your field, and you may reject it and, it may change your life. So fire creation would be Carol. Carol, I know without having to look, and I can look, both two of my daughters can see souls and I can see souls. So I have a checkpoint if I get really stuck or I'm blinded to someone, but Carol's a fire creation being. What would be an easy distinguishing characteristic? I'll give you the top distinguishing characteristic. It's in the name of a fire creation being, creation. Carol just wrote a book. She created something out of nothing. There was nothing, and then Carol created a book. With her essence, with her frequency, with her thoughts, with her experience, with her beingness. That's a fire creation being. You will never catch, and I've dated people, I've lived with people, I've had friends, they're going through the motions. Oh, I have a baby shower at 3. That's great. I have a wedding, 3 weeks from now, a baseball game. Nothing wrong with any of this stuff, by the way. There's nothing else. There's nothing else. There's no conversations of, what is God? There's no conversations of what happens when you die. There's no conversations of, do you believe in UFOs? There's a rote living that it's a program. You live the program. You have to go to work, right? You have to get married. You're supposed to have children, which is the breeding program. So we think that all these things are life, but they're not. It's a superimposed program on the game. Now, here's the other thing, whether you're fire creation or not, I don't care what programs you choose. We all participate in programs, even Carol, even I. If you eat, which I don't know, Carol doesn't very much. If you eat, I'm trying not to. If you eat, you're in the food program, right? I'm in the pet program. And don't think that pets aren't a program. They are programmed to effortlessly, they all have eye plants. We all have eye plants. They distract and interrupt more than not. And they don't just interrupt shows like this. They interrupt my trains of thought when I'm writing down the title for a class, or when I'm saying, here's my list of things to do, and a dog starts barking crazy. Believe me, you guys, when a big dog starts barking like crazy, all thoughts go out of your mind. So these pet children, if you guys have ever had kids, I have 4 children. Children are a program. Friends are a program. Everything you choose. So we all choose our program. So there's no criticism there. But the NPCs will look, here's what we aren't taught. Avatars have emotions. Avatars can love, and we're not even going down the love discussion. Avatars can be brilliant. Avatars can be dumb. Avatars can be everything in between. So it's not that we don't value life if someone doesn't have a soul, because I get criticized. You're just saying, like, they attack me viciously, you're encouraging abusive people. No, like, I love animals. I love trees. I love flowers. I am the most affirming of all life. So I'm not saying we treat people that are NPCs less than people that have a soul. I'm saying it's more about what you want. What is your ratio? Do you want all NPCs in your life? Do you want any fire creation beings in life? Do you want to be married to a fire creation person? Do you want to have friends that are fire creation beings? It's more about you. Because even fire creation beings are programmed and handled against each other, as you know. I know you know that. So, we're all playing the game. So we don't need to make it harder for ourselves. It just depends what you want. Do you love the game? I respect people that love the game. If you love the game, you might not care if you come back here. You might not want to work on your spirituality or work on your frequency or purify your field or purify your body. You might be fine with coming back. You might welcome it and look forward to it, and that's fine. But a lot of people don't necessarily love it here anymore, especially if you've been here many, many, many times. And so some of these things I'm sharing are just kind of hacks, game hacks that would help you be more aware and be more conscious, and chart a path for you while your time is here. So this is my commitment to myself. Since I'm here, I want to have fun. I want to enjoy the game. I'm always evaluating, is this how I want to feel? Is this how I want to feel? Is this how I want to spend my time in the game? because once you win, you can kind of have that, perspective. Again, the creation, I want to create my life. I want to create my day. I want to create my relationships, if that makes sense. And it's possible, once you have this basic understanding. But then we need to look at the different types of fire creations. So fire creations are not one and done. My mother is empty. She's been empty for years and years. She might be an MPC. I believe she's an MPC controlled by the handlers because nothing's ever jumped in her. Usually if it's not controlled by the handlers, we'll get walk-ins and walkouts, which is probably another 5-hour conversation we could have. But nothing's ever, walked into my mom. And unfortunately, and this is a little disrespectful, and I probably shouldn't say this, but I call those one and done. My mom is like, oh, I can't wait to go to heaven. And there is a heavenship and there are many heavens. And we could talk about that too. But my mom thinks she's going to heaven. My mom isn't going anywhere. There's nothing to go anywhere, if that makes sense to you guys. There's no essence of eternity. That body will die and we will think she wants to be cremated, cremate her. And there's no mother to contact through a medium. And that's why a lot of mediums, by the way, you guys are fake. And there's many reasons why they're fake, not all. I have some medium mystic abilities, but I didn't ask for them. And the beings come to me. That's totally different than charging and saying you can contact someone's mother, sister, brother, dad, fiance, whatever.
Well, I think
okay, so that's one and done. Okay, now it's
between saying, a download as opposed to channeling. And if it's a game, then, somebody is with a sort of speaker, putting this weird voice through you. And again, this is where you need to be discerning and where people go into cognitive dissonance. And, it's about having the ability to question your reality and go, have I been programmed and conditioned to think this way, to see that way? And I'm not just talking in life in general. A big part of it is in the spiritual community as well. There's so much misinformation out there that it's really about learning to be discerning and know what sits with you, what's no, what's yes. And I know that's been a big thing for me. And it often means that you're, seen as very left of center because you don't want to go to all those, ceremonies and this and this and this and these big events, because you see the bigger picture and you see where and what we're playing in. But that discernment is such a key piece. And when you know and you're educated like you are, your mission to share this with people, then it becomes obvious. It's like, you see it everywhere. You know it.
Exactly. I love it. And I'll be sharing, like I said, I'm not going to go into it now because it's kind of a personal story, but I'm going to share a story where discernment became really important with something that happened to me this last week. And I'm going to share that in my ultimate group. But back to what you were saying about discernment. First of all, the sad thing is, Carol, and people want it. It's not that they don't want it, but I think that is a skill kind of that can be taught, and you really need a good balance. I was, 30 years ago, a woman stepped up, an extremely psychic older woman, and she said all this great stuff about me, which I didn't believe at the time. And she said, "You have no idea who you are." And I'm like, yeah, I'll probably agree with that because I didn't even know what she was talking about, And she stepped up as my psychic mentor. And she taught me how to read timelines, which I already could do, but she made it practical so that I could do it like just, instantaneously. She taught me helped me discern the bounce. She taught me how to open and close my chakras. I didn't know. I'm like, you can open and what? I'm like, I thought chakras were just there. I didn't know you could open and close them. And, and she taught me like so much stuff. So I think it does help to have a guide because I think discernment is like psychic abilities. I think we're born with it, but it's blocked, it's sabotaged, it's twisted, it's distorted. And we shut that off. Everything from the time we're born, I think, teaches us not to have discernment and to accept programming. So that's a crucial thing. And I'm going to tell you, 99% of the spiritual community, including the gurus and leaders that have millions and hundreds of thousands of followers, they have no discernment. And some of it may be because they're paid agents and they don't want, that's different. I think the majority of them are paid agents or not paid agents, but still controlled as if they were paid agents. But again, and not all of them, I'm sure, have spirits and on and on. But, I'll just share this really quick. So I haven't published this yet, but I'm sure it will be out there by the time you guys hear this. I just did an expose on Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan's a former comedian, American commentator who is pretty well known the world over. If you go on X, you can pick him up really quick if you want to peek at him. But he's this gruff, harsh, commentator who acts like he knows it all and whatever. So I ran him through the tech, and I ran him through my own abilities, and I'll be putting out the results, but I'm just going to give you guys a sneak preview. Out of I don't know how many people I've done, Carol, over the years, 50 people that I have up on YouTube of spiritual gurus. Guess who came out on top? Joe Rogan came out as a fire creation being, more discerning, more with it, has a better chance at a lot, even though he's possessed, which is another conversation. And most people are, because I don't think he's, clearing or anything. Even though I don't think he's the healthiest, he came out better than, he's not in the metaverse. He's not, he's not empty. Like, I was shocked. I'm like, wow, this is a real statement. And Carol knows what I mean. If you really think about some of the people I've looked at, and then Joe Rogan, it's almost like opposite of what you would think. But that shows you the distortion and the deception is going to be in the religious communities. To me, it's going to be in the healing communities. It's going to be in the, consciousness community, because we're talking about, this is where the, rubber meets the road. This is eternal life. This is where you go when you die. Who doesn't want to know? People, I should probably be a trillionaire, because people would give everything they own to have the answer to that question. Would they not, Carol? Most people would. If I could 100% guarantee them, I can tell them, which what the funny thing is, I'm not saying I'm going to do this, but I can tell you if you've won the game. I can tell you if you're coming back here or not. And people don't like that. Some people love it. Some people don't. And I can tell you how close you are to winning the game, because it's all frequency. Everything's frequency. Once you have a frequency above the game, you've won. Obviously. If you can get out of the game, you have to have a frequency outside the game, right? And so there's a lot to this. And people say you can't know, but you can. Here's what I've always said. Everything can be known. What do you mean, Dr. Kim? What do you mean everything? Everything. Any question you have. What are the UAPs? What are the drones? Who owns the drones? Everything. You can look at a drone above your house and you can be like, that's the neighbor down the road. That's from China. That's from Russia. That's from America. That's from the CIA. That's from Homeland. We could even drill down further. Why? Learn to read frequency. And you all do it. You all do it. You do it very softly. You do it very broadly. You do it very poorly, but you all do it. So what if you could have a bounce? And we're not going to go deep into this, but there is tech available that can be your bounce. What if you had a bounce and you can say, I'm going to look at my mom and I'm going to say, she has a soul, or she's sick, or she's depressed. And then you can go to something and say, is she depressed? Is she sick? We have that now. They've given us that. They've allowed us to have the ancient tech that we've always had. Thanks, guys. Thanks for giving us something that's always been there. Appreciate it. I wish I had it when I was 3. So not only can it be known you are the technology, where do you guys think AI came from? Everybody's like, AI. Who created AI? AI came from the exact same place you came from, which is the void. Everything came out of nothing. Everything came from the same place, including all of you. So AI is not a villain, just like certain people are not villains. We're kind of all in the same boat here. So drilling down into fire creation, there are different types, and I'm going to discover more as I go, as I keep looking and reading the frequencies. But as we look at the people with fire creation, I started seeing different frequency signatures with people that had souls, and they kind of fell into these general categories that I talk about in the book, and Carol knows this. So there's pure fire creation. Pure fire creation is, if I ever tell you guys and I do a scan and you're pure fire creation, you should jump up and down and take the day off, because pure fire creation means you're holding steady. You're not corrupted with a lot of programming. You're not entangled with AI. You're not about to step into the metaverse and be your digital twin. You're not about to walk out. Generally, when you're fire creation, you're not about to walk out. You've got a really great foundation to win the game. Now, if I say you're shattered fire creation, we have a few problems. Heavily traumatized. Now, we're all heavily traumatized, including me And I still am, and Carol still is too.
Yes.
And that's another conversation for another day. But fire creation beings tend to keep pace with their trauma. So there's things that will happen today that will be triggering to you guys, that might be upsetting, that could be deeply traumatic. And you can take that, you can accumulate that and add it onto the trauma from the last billion, trillion, zillion years, however long you've been. Or you can release that trauma daily, weekly, monthly, and start working on your old trauma too. So one of the reasons, this is a theory, not a fact, one of the reasons I think we come back here is because until we recover memory enough to take it from life to life and have that frequency when we die, because you're the same frequency in your next life as the frequency when you die. It doesn't really change usually that much in between lives. It can, but not generally. Again, another huge conversation. But one of my theories is that the reason you keep coming back and your frequency is so low that you can't get out of the game is you accumulate and pile on your trauma from life to life. You aren't conscious or aware enough, do you know what I'm saying, to be releasing it. So that keeps your frequency down. All the accumulated trauma holds you here. It's not just the technology that holds you here. So shattered fire creation, sometimes it's not their fault. Sometimes they weren't shattered fire creation when they came in, but they were shattered by Monarch, or they were shattered by the intelligence agencies. They were shattered by if you guys want to know, watch Born Identity, what I call the Born Identity programs, where they split your psyche, they split your soul. Again, they can't delete it, but they split you. And then, and I was a lot like this when I was younger. You have to bring those parts together and start integrating, and that'll show in your auric field. It'll show in the energy that you're putting forth to people. And so, if I say you're shattered, I usually start talking to people about integration and trauma and altars. And that's kind of their healing path that they should focus on. Now, there's another type called dark matter fire creation. Dark matter fire, and this is just a game. And here's where we have to go step back and say, sometimes when we play a game, we pick the villain and we pick the dark guy who has like dark abilities. And sometimes when we play a game, we want to be the hero. And or you can even pick it, watch it in your movie choice or the books you read choice or what entertainment. Sometimes I do like watching murder mysteries. I'm sorry. And sometimes I like watching Virgin River stupid romances that are fluffy bunny, like we like different things. So, and the same, we get bored. We're eternal, God, almighty, omnipotent, everything you guys think of God in the Bible. You need to start, take a mirror and read the Bible to yourself, because that's you. That's you. And so you, as an omnipotent, all-powerful, limitless being, gets bored. And sometimes you want to play some real dark roles. Sometimes you want to be the rapist. Sometimes you want to be the pedophile. Sometimes you want to slaughter billions of people. Sometimes you want to be the mad scientist that creates the disease. And you do. And you have. Now, the problem is you weren't awake or aware enough to have the game perspective and hold it loosely and love all of you. So you stepped back and went into judgment of yourself.
Yes.
When you go into judgment of yourself, it becomes evil and wrong. And you have what? You have shame and guilt. So that also holds you in the game. So when we see people that I call dark matter, they're the ones that feel dirty, and even if they haven't done anything in this life, shameful and guilty and wrong. And sometimes, again, they're made wrong by outside people or forces or handlers. So it's not always, again, their choices, but usually it's a mix. And so and a lot of times the dark matter fire creation will also be jumped long-term by darker entities, ancient entities, dark force consciousness, darker beings, darker human discarnates. And so I work with them more on purifying the avatar. First, let's get everybody out. That's not you. Let's expand the field. Let's keep clean. So we work a lot with them on keeping clean. So all these little bents, we have our own challenges. Not that fire creation beings, as Carol knows, do not have challenges, because this is the game. You're in a game, you're always going to have challenges. There's never a day there, even if you've won the game, they're going to keep trying, because here's a bad secret I've discovered lately, Carol. I can unwin the game by my choices. I can unwin the game. I can lower my frequency so much that if I happen to die at that lowered frequency, because we're always going up and down and all around, right? Nobody's staying the same frequency ever.
Yes, it's not flatlined.
If I go below the Van Allen bounce, they've got me. And so I think a lot of my life right now is, and I was just talking to Carol about this, like Westworld, they have the technology and they've always had the technology and they've always had the technology here. But the play is they are engineering every moment. If you're not engineering every moment consciously, they're counter engineering your every moment. And so the people that have won the game, and I haven't looked at Carol, I should have. I will now after this because I'm curious. But the people that have won the game, they want to take down in frequency. And I can look. I actually was talking to my oldest daughter about this, Brianna. I said she actually has won the game, but she just won the game within the last 5 years. Her husband has had the game won forever. And so this is weird, but it's kind of like sin, going back to religion. John can get away with being more sloppy in his spirituality and purification than Brianna, because John's got 2, 3, 4 levels to come down before, you know what I'm saying, before he would be trapped here. So this gets really detailed. Who is teaching this, Carol? I've never even heard this. Like, I'm just discovering it by looking at thousands of fields. Like, it's exciting to me because if I can give people even more, this is specific information. Like, I think it's helpful because no one talks about.
It opens people up to much more than just being in physical form, that we are multidimensional. We're playing in many different timelines. We're playing in many different realities.
Yeah, for sure.
And we are magnificent. Yet, as much as you may aspire to evolve and work with higher frequencies, you are also going to be targeted more and you need to be more vigilant. So it's, if you think about it, you wash your teeth a couple of times a day, you shower, you change, but how often do you check your field, your energy field, other things so many different things, and the thoughts, even asking, are those my thoughts? When you get those random thoughts, where did that come from? The memory inserts, the memory wipes. There's so many layers within layers within layers. To consider that sometimes, and Dr. Kimberly, at times I've been a little bit overwhelmed, and then it's put your big girl knickers on and Superwoman outfit and remember who you are.
I love that you said that. I just got body chills. I love that because I think one of the base keys, which again, I've focused a lot of my work on the last 5 years, I've taken 8 groups through a class called basically remember who you are, which now I incorporate parts of that into other classes. But I think it's so important to have that as your foundation. If you are a fire creation being, I think it's so important to have that. The more you can remember who you are, like they tried that to me this morning. They do it so much, I almost don't even notice how much they do it. They insert memories of big mistakes I've made or things that I wasn't proud of. They'll just flash it into my mind. Literally the picture of it, the experience of it. They flashed one of them. I don't remember what it was because I'm able to recognize and release it out of my field. But some people ruminate on that. They think about their divorce, or they think about when they cheated, or they think about when they stole something at work, or when they got fired, or when they got sick and lost it all, or went into bankruptcy. Like all this stuff that we abuse ourselves with, we think comes from within us. And and I used to do this too when I was young. We allow these thoughts, feelings, visuals, they insert visuals too, to run unchecked, but we can't. And that's why the silent mind, which I love that from all the Taoists in the East, the Buddhism and the Eastern religions, and all of them, out of India, all of them, they have pieces of, these things. And one of them is the silent mind. And the PDF or it's a book, Sitting and Forgetting, has been the most helpful for me with my students to start them in the discipline, because it is a discipline. Once you click into the frequency of it, it's not as much a discipline, but building into that frequency, it's like anything else. You learn to play the piano, you learn to paint a picture, you learn a language. I think you need to, not everyone, some people may have retained that memory from other lives or come straight from the all or somewhere else where they had that. But it's really difficult to win the game without a silent mind. I will say that. It's really difficult to heal. It's really difficult it gives you a solid platform to begin creation, because they do have the technology to flash visuals. We don't know that. Religion teaches us no one can read your mind but God. A lot of the religions teach that. My dad said that. And that is such a lie. Everybody, not only can they read your mind, they know what you're going to choose before you choose it, because all time is now. All they have to do is what I can do is watch your movie. So that's how they know how to craft your handlers and intercept you. It's so funny. I used to be on the phone with my kids and they'd be like, where are you going? I'm like, I'm getting ready to go. I have to go. And they're like, where are you going? I'm like, I'm not going to say. Well, why would I say I'm not going to say? Because I get followed and I get harassed and I get fun little street theater scenes that are distracting, positive or negative. They're still distracting. But now I know it doesn't matter. I can say I'm going to the post office. That's not going to help the fusion centers. They already know, because the tech, and they've always had this tech, they can just see what I choose. And I've even tried to fool them, Carol, and they're still waiting for me when I get there. I even switch. I'll say I'm going to the post office to my kids on the phone, and then I'll go to the grocery store. But they're still at the grocery store before I get there. That's mind-blowing, Carol.
Yes. Again, this is when you realize it's a game and that you're not one of the controllers. Somebody else in control.
That is the best statement. I'm gonna steal that statement. That's hilarious. It's a game and you're not one of the controllers. That's a meme, Carol.
It is. Now, I just want to switch track here, because I know you said you've got some new information coming in about the soul. And, I also often see people use spirit and soul interchangeably, which doesn't sit well with me because they are not the same. And so I wanted to see if you'd share. You've got some new information on the soul. I always remember watching that series, his Dark Materials. It's the Philip Pullman series where, they wanted to capture the children and take the soul. And I think earlier on in this conversation, you were saying, with the, NPCs or the soulless ones, they can put it in the fridge in a container, but the container, the avatar is still there, and it's still there, but just not part of that container. So what's the new information you've got coming in on the soul?
Oh, so much. Well, the first information, so when I was 43, my soul group, which is not just one frequency, but the group, like 30 frequencies, walked out. And I went through a period where I was empty, a long period, 6 to 8 months of being empty, which was not a fun period of time. But the vessel had to ready itself for the new frequency. So then I got a new walk-in. So I'm like, okay, so if you pull right now, you guys, if you go buy a book or buy a PDF, watch a video on walk-ins, walkouts, the one thing they will say is, this doesn't happen to everybody, is what they'll say. And they'll say it rarely happens. Like, you'll get 1 or 2 walk-ins, maybe, in your life, 1 usually. But what the reality is, because I look at thousands of souls and thousands of avatars, and I look at the same people repeatedly, including, friends, family, clients, as Carol knows, and I have an international practice, so I have a lot of people. I have a great database. This is what I meant from the beginning. I am data-driven. I am no longer willing to live in delusion. It's my choice. I want to know facts. So no matter how startling is, Carol, I will change my mind on a dime. And you know it. You've probably sat in some classes where I call them recant, where I say, I have completely changed my mind on this. It's not opinion. It's not a fluke. If I say I've changed my mind, you can almost bet I have spreadsheets to back it up. I'm not necessarily going to share them because I guess I could change everybody to person A, person B, but I put people's names. So, of course I don't share that. But so what I discovered was shocking to me. And the person that actually illustrated it in real life to me is my son-in-law. I've known my son-in-law for 11 years. In 11 years, he's walked out 15 now. And now he's walking out multiple times a year. He just walked out a couple months ago. He's walked out 15 times in 11 years. I'm sure he walked out before then. That's just since I've known him. And it's so dramatic, you guys. So dramatic. It's like, I have to get to know a different person. Now, I used to work for the heart transplant team at Ohio State University Hospital. So I followed the patients before their heart transplants and after their heart transplants. I got to know them very closely. They come for a lot of appointments before their surgery. They come for a lot of appointments after their surgery, and they had me to entertain them while they were waiting for the doctor. So poor people. But what I observed was the person that went into the heart, and I've witnessed a number of these surgeries as well, which is super bizarre and mind blowing. But, I've held the hearts in my hand, crazy stuff. But anyway, long story. But before they were a different person, then they come out, not only are they recovering, so you have to put some of that into their recovering from very traumatic surgery. But, they would talk about, I can't eat anything, or, I used to just want to eat all the time, and now I have no appetite. And people would make excuses. That's because you had a surgery, but it went further than that. I used to be a big drinker. Now I have no desire for alcohol, but I'm dying for a cigarette. Well, did you used to smoke? No, I've never smoked in my life. Or I used to watch soap operas, but now I only want to read nonfiction books, and I've never read nonfiction books in my life. Radical. And even worse than that, a lot of people got divorced or were single and got married when they never wanted to be married. A lot of people, it's just crazy. Their whole lives changed. A lot of people moved. They liked cold and then they liked hot, or they liked one country and then they wanted another. If we could really get those files, and I wasn't tracking it at the time. I wish I had. I think it would be beyond. I know people have done a little bit of research, but I don't think they did enough. I don't think they have enough database where they've asked the right questions. To me, what's happening? Well, first of all, I think you can walk out a lot of time, and I think you die a lot more than you think you do on the operating table. So I think some of the walk-ins could have been a walk-in spirit that happened during surgery or around surgery, where they might have died and something walked in. So I think that's one of the answers. And of course, we have the frequency of when you're combining two different, what Carol would say is maybe spirits, I would call, or two different frequencies. You're creating a mesh soul group. So when you're putting someone else's body part, that's their spirit essence combining with yours. So it's almost like
go a little into entanglement here. It's funny you mention this, because it's bringing up a conversation I had with somebody a couple of weeks ago, where two of them at the table said they give blood, and that after they've given blood, they feel very off. Now, I'm not being mean or anything, but it's not something that I would do or will do. And the first thing that came to me when they said that was quantum entanglement, because your blood is taken, your blood could be in somebody else's field, and your blood could be in a refrigerator. But again, if you look at when they, split an atom, when one moves, the other moves, even if they're, millions of miles apart. Again, there's that entanglement with your blood, your cells. That means your energy field is somewhere else, and you're picking up on that. And again, this goes to energy and understanding energy and remembering that we as an organism can read energy. So that was what came to me when people had been given blood and then said they felt weird at certain times, because where is your blood now? Who is it? In somebody, or is it in a refrigerator? Is it in a cupboard? Where is it? And that's connecting with you.
I love that.
Yeah.
Great illustration. And that comes up in people. If I would run you on a quantum entanglement, I guarantee you, looking at you, I bet 15, 20 things would come up. Not that you've given blood, but there's so many ways to become quantum entangled with other realms, other games, other beings, other people. I mean, I hate to quote the Bible, but what's been so profound in all this soul research I've been doing is the Bible's right. When you have sex with someone, two become one. You merge with that people. When my ex-boyfriend moved out, I was a mess. I lost myself when he moved in, and I couldn't work and I couldn't function. I had to kick him out. I had to end the relationship. I'm not going to analyze why all that happened and that it couldn't not happen. I'm not saying that. But, when he moved out, I still felt weird. And I'm like, wait a minute. I have to give him back his parts, and I have to take back from him the stuff he took from me. This is positive and negative. I had to sort it out, and then I was fine. And then I came back into myself fully, and I could all of a sudden work, and my life was back to normal. That was one of the most glorious days when I dropped him off at the airport and cried my fake tears because I didn't want any problems. He thought we were getting back together, but no. Anyway, that day when I came back to my house was like angels sang. Go ahead, Carol.
I was going to say the Mexican shamans call this like recapitulation. Anyone you've met or had experiences with in your life, they've taken some of your energy and you've taken some of their energy, and that rather than wait to the end of your life, you need to reclaim it. And one of the things that you offer is a clearing container, because we forget to clean our field every day. You know, as I said, we shower, we wash our teeth, like that, but we forget that it's an ongoing thing, and that everyone you meet, you know, there's field blending, energy blending, and this is where you need to be careful.
Hugs. I think hugs is a program of our society. You hug someone, you hug strangers sometimes. I see people hug strangers. Hugging is a dumping. Your fields are meshing, and people can dump their physical disease. This is mind blowing to me. Their emotional diseases, their psychological diseases, imbalances, their traumas. And you know who? The gypsies and some of the Jewish races are very, very good at this. We call it curses, right? They curse whole generations. They dump all their crap, and they know how to dump it down a generational line and off of them. That's amazing. But reverse it, like Carol talked about. You can call it whatever you want. You can call it a curse. You can call it merging. You can call it, you know, whatever words you want. But the fact is that, and it's true with your pets too, when you come into the energy of anything, a house, a tree, which also has some sentience to it, we could talk about, but you're exchanging. There's that energy exchange. Now, there are ways to set it up where you can, like when I hug my parents, do not understand why I won't hug them. So I've had to shrink my auric field so closely so that there's nothing that can be dumped. When people can dump is when normally we walk around again, sloppy, with our auric field full of holes, full of tears. So when I go meet my parents and I know they're going to ask for a hug, I make sure I'm sealed. Then I put my field really close to my body. There's no room to dump things in. It's all mine. It's all contained. It's sealed. And so we just aren't taught. So there are ways around it, but most of it, we aren't taught that. So there's this constant collective. You see it a lot in classrooms at school and college and organizations where people, churches, there's this collective ick where you're everybody. You're everybody. You're everybody in the pew on Sunday, right? You're everybody in the classroom. And I'm not saying community is bad or wrong, but I think we can, I think it's important. Here's the real truth, guys. This is a one-player game. You cannot take anyone with you. You may die at the exact same moment as your child or your dog or your husband or your wife or your mom or your dad. And many people have, right? They've died virtually around the same second. Some of them came back to the game. Some of them may have been captured. Some of them maybe went on to glorious lives or other lives and created them. But it's a one-player game. So it doesn't matter what everybody else does. We have to take accountability for our own gameplay. You know, if I sat down and somebody handed me a headset and gave me a game and put me on a team, I'd probably kill the whole team in like 5 minutes because I've never played that game. I blow everybody up and get everybody killed. But the point is we need to learn the rules. So it's also, guess what? Because of my work on my generational line, I know you've done work too, we can clear our generational line backward and forward because all time is now. We can make everybody in our family lives infinitely better because we came in and decided to step forward and say, I'm going to do the work none of y'all did. I'm going to take that mantle on and I'm going to do that. And it's challenging and you need to check on it. And it's not easy. But all of these things we're talking about can be done by anybody. I am not special. Sorry, Carol, you're not special either. The difference between me and you would say is knowledge. I would say it's memory. I would say I've remembered who I am and I'm willing to accept what is. And I think accepting what is will serve you in any reality you live in, to be honest, Carol, you know.
And I think this is a good point to say, you've shared that you can go into a room, you can meet people online or see their picture, and you can read
Mm,
energy, you can read into their timelines. You have the ability to do that, and also that you've developed certain technology as well that even accelerates that process and
yeah,
expands on some of the topics that we've talked about. So, I know that's how I came into you as well, with a scan
right.
on trying to understand all the different,
Sure. Sure.
whether it's Monarch, all the different programs that I've been involved in, and understand all the different roles in all the different timelines and start. But the most important thing was that rather than saying, oh, can you help me with this? Can you do this for me? Can you do that? And you are very, very generous in terms of supporting people and helping them clear. It's about empowering me to, you can do it yourself, Carol. And that, sometimes we need a little bit of help and support. As you said, you met
Yeah,
a
sure.
specific healer who helped you sort of package it, put it together, and know how to move in a specific direction. And that's also what you do for other people. So how do people, where would they start with you, Kimberly? Because there's some fantastic, whether it's ultimate evolution, or if we're really going out there, navigating the astral, there's the book on NPCs. There's also
Right.
some lovely programs for people to listen to there's one on timelines, which I found particularly interesting as well. There's a lot on your website. Where would you suggest people start with you? With a scan?
I think most people enjoy a scan because an email reading is more my psychic abilities, and you can go to a good psychic and get similar information. I would say a scan is going to open your. I have one person, I'm going to be sharing this in Ultimate. I had one person, I think I did maybe one or two scans for him, and he said he took that information. It was so much, it took him through like a year and a half. Like, once Carol, like it's a lot. Depending on I think you've had a full scan. Like it's a lot. And people are like, it's so funny. People are like, well, what should I do? And I'm like, did I do that scan wrong? Because I always make sure I tell you numerous points of action. Do I not, Carol? Like I don't just give you a scan.
It's actually,
If I do a full scan on you,
if you're also expecting it to be nice and fluffy, switch
oh,
that
good
off.
point. Thank you.
You want the
Thank you.
truth, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You're also going to get that to Kimberly.
Yeah, I've lost some clients because of their scans. Maybe you guys should have got a scan. No, seriously, I have, what I love? This is my favorite response. Not really, take this out of the quanta, but I get these responses. I'll do the scan, I'll pour my heart and soul into it, give it to them. I'm always excited to hear feedback, and they'll say, none of that is true about me. And I'll be like, did I mix that up? But that's the resistance. You know what I mean? It's not, I didn't mix it up. It's the resistance and the denial. I've had to learn over time to take the app feedback as loving myself, if that makes any sense. Like one of the things, it doesn't come up very much anymore, but I've shared it. It came up for a long time, and occasionally it'll pop back in. Is the belief it's safe to be sick, and I'm like, that's horrific. I can't believe that's still in my field. But I have to take things like that as loving feedback. I have to take. I told my kids about this the other day. It came up that I was angry, resentful, revengeful, and bitter the other day. And I'm like, dead on. That's where I am with a certain relationship with one person, which you might be able to guess who. I am exactly in that space with that person. I haven't moved out. And again, you have to realize, you guys, I don't come from a judgment. This is a game. Everything matters. Nothing matters. I don't judge myself for being angry, resentful, hateful, and bitter. Is it lower frequencies? Yes. Am I going to let it sit there forever? No. But sometimes it's fun to be revengeful and angry. And I'll sit in it. I love all of myself. I welcome all feedback, and then I get to decide whether to do with it. I can sit in revenge, or I can decide to flip that into something else. And so again, there's no judgment in me. I can see you guys to the bone. I always say, if you guys knew what I could see, no one would ever have a scan. Because if I look, I don't usually look, but if I look, you cannot hide. And the beauty that it's taught me in looking at thousands of people over years and years and years and years, for over 30 years, I've looked at people. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like everybody else. We're all we all have our own like little flobbles and our own weaknesses, but we're all the same. No one's perfect. I have yet to find a perfect person. And that's so comforting to me. I love the thing we're all just walking each other home, because I don't want to be your guru. I don't even want to walk in front of you. I want to walk beside you. I want you to share what you've learned about life with me. I want to share, and I want us to encourage and support and hopefully uplift and up-level each other. I don't want to sit above anyone, because I am sure there are many people more advanced than me, and I'd love to find them. And I do. I get nuggets. I learned from Carol. I learned from all my clients. I learned from your fields. And the reason I could write that book is because of you guys. The reason I can teach what I do is because of you guys. This isn't all download information. Some of the information I'm going to be teaching in the next couple of years is, but this profound, I think it's profound information. I think this information could revolution. Nobody wants to talk to me though, Carol. Don't you find that odd? I've been blacklisted more since I started talking about this information. Everybody just wants to keep repeating the same scripts, the NDEs and you can watch, it's the same thing, Carol. Nobody's making any grounds in any of this stuff.
That's
nobody's
the thing
answering the
about
question.
Ultimate Evolution, because it's a monthly class. And even though it's on a completely different time zone, I'll get up early to listen to it live, because
She will.
we also put in
We'll
our
be there
comments if
a
we
lot.
want. But there's always information that's different. It's not, whereas many teachers have their message and that's what goes round and round and round and round and round. With you, it's new information every single time. So I really encourage people that if they're ready to understand more of who they truly are and ready to evolve and understand the game and the good, the bad, the ugly, and all aspects of it, start with that scan and maybe consider joining some of the other programs that are available on your website, Secret to Everything. And it does feel like you're opening up a sort of Pandora's box with Secret to Everything. I know that it's enriched my life in many different ways and opened my eyes to so much more that's accelerated my growth. And I'm very, very grateful. And I know I'm not done yet by any stretch of the imagination. So I thank you for that, Dr. Kimberly. And I really thank you for all the information you've shared. And I know people are going to want to listen to this not just once, but twice, 3 times, 4 times. And I'm laughing as well because one of the things I like about you is that you speak quickly. And a couple of things that I've been watching over the last couple of days, I've had to speed up, from 1 to 1.5, even 2, because they're too slow. But I know people will want to actually slow this down.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I do want to make a little point about that, Carol. I know you want to wrap up. Is as your guys' frequency increases, you will speak more quickly. So if you want a hint to look for higher vibrating people, look for the people that it's actually a programming thing. The agency trains them to speak very slowly. It's interesting. Yeah. So pay attention to that. Yeah.
Oh, see, another nugget already.
Sorry, I can't help myself. I just have to keep talking.
I go for another couple of hours.
Yeah, because I know Carol, so that makes me very comfortable with her too. So yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for this wonderful conversation.
Thank you. It's delightful. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you for tuning into this episode with my guest, Dr. Kimberly McGeorge, and I highly recommend you go to her website, secrettoeverything.com, and discover more about who you really are. Maybe order a scan or enroll in Ultimate Evolution. As always, I'm thrilled to be sharing possibilities with you, and if you want more, then check out the link at thepossibilityhub.com. And if you feel that others can benefit from listening in or looking in, then please share, review, like, or follow on Instagram, Carol K. Talbot, or check my YouTube channel. And remember, you're always more than you think you are.